A stinky kid that no one likes, another kid who loses both his thumbs. What happens when you go outside with an umbrella on a rainy day? All of that on today's most amazing top 10 list. Coming in at number 10, we have Grisht von Baden. Our next story translates to either cruel or wicked Frederick. I think it depends on what era you're born in, but this story is pretty much about a sociopath in the making. The story starts with cruel Frederick running around killing birds, just random birds that he finds. He finds them and he kills them and he rips their wings off. And this isn't even to eat them. He just wants to kill them for his own sick pleasure.
No, you need help. I need help?
Who does that? And the story only gets worse from there. He starts to destroy furniture and then he finds some poor lady named Mary and he starts whipping her. First of all, what is wrong with this kid? And second of all, why on earth does this kid have a whip? Who gives a kid a whip? Then there's a dog that shows up at this kid's house and he starts whipping the dog. And then the dog gets pissed and it mauls cruel Frederick's leg. And then the story ends with him in bed because his foot is infected and the dog is sitting at the dinner table eating his food. So I guess the moral of the story is don't be an evil child of Satan or you'll get attacked by wild animals and maybe starve to death. Next on the list we have Struwwelpeter. This story translates to Shaggy Peter. And while being shaggy now in this day and age with ripped jeans and face tattoos is hip and cool, back when the story was written in 1845, they didn't feel the same way. Well, maybe that was just Germany. I don't know if there's a bunch of people running around with face tattoos in the 1800s in New England, who knows. But this story is about a boy who gets too damn shaggy. He never wants to groom himself. He has fingernails that grow super long and his hair needs to be brushed, but it's also so long because he never cuts it. Also, the story specifically talks about how he's covered in soot. I don't really think that's a problem anymore. I think the equivalent to being covered in soot is like being covered in Cheeto dust. The modern version of this story should be Cheeto Dust Charlie and the sticky fingers that ruined his Xbox controller. Someone in the comments please tell me how to say that in German. But pretty much what happens to old Shaggy Peter is that no one likes him. He stinks, he's hairy, he's got fingernails so long he could scratch his next door neighbor's ear holes. So the moral of the old tale is be clean or people won't like you. In 1845, we hadn't started telling kids that it's what's on the inside that counts.
You're ugly.
Coming in at number 8, we have fidgetyphilipps. This story is a warning to kids who can't sit still at the dinner table. But before I dive into this one, don't forget to like this video. The story goes that young Philip is at the dinner table with his parents and is being pretty rambunctious. Eventually, after moving around way too much, he ends up tipping his chair over. In his fall, he ends up bringing the entire dinner table and everything on it down with him and makes a complete mess. He is under the tablecloth with all of the dinner scraps over top and all around him. His parents are of course extremely upset at him for ruining all their plates and glasses and the dinner that they had made for everyone. The boy ended up not getting to eat dinner and had to go hungry that day. If you take anything from this story, just make sure you're minding your manners at the dinner table. Moving on to our number 7 spot, we have the story of Augustus who wouldn't have any soup. This story is about a boy named Augustus who was a healthy little boy with round cheeks. Augustus never had a problem eating and also ate whatever he was told to and never let his soup get cold. But one winter day, something changed in Augustus. When his soup was placed in front of him that day, he threw a tantrum and refused to eat it. He threw his spoon across the room and yelled to get that nasty soup away from him. The next day, he was visibly thinner from not getting his nutrients, but he still refused to eat his soup. The next day, the same thing, and the days that followed. He was withering away in front of everyone's eyes. On the 4th day, he was so thin he hardly outweighed a sugar plum. The story takes a dark turn on the 5th day when he ends up being found dead.
At number 6 we have Grisht von Baden. This one is the story of Flying Robert. He goes out during a rainy day and he has his umbrella and he ends up floating away. And the last line of the story is literally he was never seen again. The moral of the story is to tell kids not to go outside when it's gross and rainy outside, but how harsh does the story have to be? The kid couldn't just come home with a cold and get a little sick and then get better. No, he had to float away from the wind, picking him up by his umbrella, and then he would vanish from society. Jesus.
In our number 5 spot, we have the girl without hands story. This story is about a father who gets offered money by a strange man. The man tells the father father that if he gives him whatever is standing behind the mill, then he will give him the money. Unbeknownst to the father, this strange man is actually the devil. The man agrees because he believes that there is only an apple tree standing behind the mill, but to his unfortunate surprise, his daughter was actually standing behind it. When the devil goes to take the daughter away, she fights back. She is so pure that she is able to resist his grip, but the devil still wants to take something with him. He tells the father and daughter that he will leave if the father will chop off his daughter's hands to give to him. Of course, at first they said absolutely not, but then the devil threatened to take the father away if they didn't agree. So unfortunately, that father and daughter had no choice and were forced to chop off her hands. I definitely don't want to go to sleep after hearing that one.
And number 4, we have Grisht von Baden. Also, if I'm pronouncing these wrong, I want to apologize to everyone watching the video. This translates to the story of the wild huntsman. This is a tale about a dude who wanted to head out and hunt some rabbit for his dinner. While he was out hunting, the day gets super hot and this dude was like, why should I hunt in the sun when I can just take a nap and start hunting again later? Smart dude. Well, it turns out not so smart. When he was sleeping, the rabbit steals his gun and his glasses and then starts shooting at him. He starts running away in terror because the rabbit is trying to kill him and he can barely see without his glasses. The huntsman manages to run back to his cottage where his wife is waiting for him. His wife hears a ton of commotion and comes out to see her husband being hunted by a rodent. In a final attempt to survive, the huntsman jumps down a well and his wife screams in terror and drops her coffee on her foot and burns herself, and the rabbit and the rabbit's baby celebrate. I don't even know what the moral of the story is. Don't sleep on the job or animals will gain sentience and try to murder you in front of your loved ones.
In our number 3 spot, we have Max and Moritz. This story is about 2 little rascals who like to pull pranks. In the story, they pull off 7 different pranks. Some of their pranks include stealing a widow's chicken, breaking a bridge and then making the tailor walk over it so that he falls into the river below, and filling a teacher's pipe with gunpowder so that when he lights it, it blows up in his face. Needless to say, these boys are pretty reckless and pretty cruel. Eventually, someone decides it's time to prank the boys back, but this is where things take an even darker turn. This prank ends up being less of a prank and more of an extremely severe punishment. The boys end up getting baked into bread and fed to the chickens. I can't believe that this is actually a story told to children. The boys did play some pretty harmful pranks, but I'm not sure if this extent was necessary. I guess it's a lesson to be kind and treat others well.
At number 2, we have Daigo. There's my German. I'm killing it. Killing it at German today. My German's the best. This translates to a very sad story with matches. And it's about a girl named Harriet who is left home alone. Her parents have a box of matches on the countertop and tell her not to touch them, but this little girl loves fire. And so the girl doesn't listen to her parents and she lights a match anyways. And then her clothes light on fire and she burns until there's nothing left but her smoldering ashes on the ground. And then her cats cry a stream of tears out of their face, and that's the end. That's the end of the story. The lesson is obviously don't play with matches, and the secret message is how you give a child a lifelong fear of fire.
In our number 1 spot today, we have the story of Little Suck a Thumb. This story starts off with a mom leaving her young son Conrad at home. She explains that she needs to leave for a little while, but warns him not to suck his thumb while she is away or else. She says that the great tall tailor always finds little boys who suck their thumbs and takes big sharp scissors and cuts them off, and explains that thumbs can't grow back. The mom leaves, and then almost immediately after, the boy begins sucking his thumb. He had been warned, but absolutely did not listen. Soon, the door flew open and a tailor began running in with scissors. I'm not sure why the tailor cares so much about it, but he ends up chasing the boy around and snipping off his thumbs. When the mom comes home, she sees the boy standing there and apparently he just looks sad. I feel like I would be a lot more than sad if somebody cut off my thumbs, but I guess it is just a story. The mom then says she knew that the tailor would come to naughty little suck-a-thumb, which seems like kind of an insensitive response.
Alright guys, that's been our list of some crazy German stories that they tell to children, or at least they used to. That was a fun time. I hope all those kids are scarred permanently. Explains a lot why Germans are hard people, and they're hard, strict people. Don't play with matches, or you'll burn to death. Those are the rules in Germany. Alright guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I've been your host, Jade Arena.
I'm Olivia Kozlowski.
And bye. You good?
I'm so sorry. Ooh.
I hope my German is good for you guys. Hope you're liking it.
That's the end.
He just dies at the end?
That's literally how the story ends.
Bummer. Then our next story is Grisht von Baden Robert.